So in this video, we'll be talking about Amazon product listing images, what types exist, and how to use them in order to increase your conversion rates and also to stand out from the competition. And this video, in this session, we have a guest from Helium 10. It's Lailama Hasan. She's specializing in listening optimization. And before we move on with our guest and our presentation, I wanted to inform you that this session is sponsored by 5 companies. It's Helium 10 is we have a representative of Helium 10 in this session, and they are sponsoring this Seller Fest online virtual summit as well. This session is part of this event. And Helium 10 is an all-in-one suite for Amazon and Walmart sellers. Check the link below in the description. Also, another sponsor is Getida, which is a FBA auditing and reimbursement service for Amazon sellers and helps sellers to claim back money from Amazon, which Amazon owes them. So check the link below in the description. Also, Unibrands is an Amazon FBA acquire the brands and build brands. Not only Amazon, also Shopify direct-to-consumer brands. So if you want to sell and exit your business, check them out. You will find contacts below. And also Perpetua is a e-commerce, Amazon e-commerce advertising software and intelligence platform for Amazon and Walmart and few other marketplace sellers. So check them out if you want to automate your advertising. And finally, last but not least, C is a full service of compliance, customs, and logistics if you want to expand your e-commerce brand globally. And this session will be hosted by 2 Orange Klik ladies, Lisette and Sophia. Hello.
Hi, everybody.
Hello. Good to see you all. Good. So I'm very excited about today's session. I think we all are. And we have with us Lailama from Helium 10. Welcome, Lailama.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
Cool. So can you please introduce yourself and tell us about today's session?
Yeah, for sure. So today, first of all, actually, I want to begin by thanking each and every one of you for making it to my session. We will be taking a deep dive into listing image optimization. And I'm excited to share some of my strategies with you, and I hope that you're equally excited. Now, to introduce myself, I've consulted Amazon brands over listing optimization. That's kind of my specialty. I work with Helium 10 as a brand evangelist, and in the past, I've done photography for a lot of Amazon brands, and I've also optimized their listings. So that's kind of where my specialty comes in. And that's just a quick little bit of background on me. All right. So let's begin by talking about the different types of listing images, which are your main image, your lifestyle image, your infographic, and lastly, 3D rendered images, right? And now, as you know, as soon as a customer, basically, I'm just going to start with how a customer's journey starts. As soon as they search for a product on Amazon, the first thing they see is a list of main images. So among the huge, search listings, they're going to see so many different listings. And the first thing they'll really see is the main image. So that's where, the importance of the main image comes from. It's a major contributor to your click-through rate. There's going to be so many other listings, so you really need to stand out. And that's going to make a huge impact on whether you get that click-through rate or not. So a lot of you might be thinking what click-through rate is. And basically, next slide. Yeah. So a lot of you might be thinking what click-through rate is. It's basically the percentage of visitors to the product page who were shown the listing in the search results. So among all the competition in the search results, the higher, people are going to be looking at so many listings. So the more people who click on your listing from all those different competitors that they see, all of those different sellers that they see, the more people who click on it, the higher your click-through rate will be. And that is kind of the reason why we want our main image to be optimized for a higher click-through rate. Now let's go over some of the ways in which you can do that. And we will begin by some of the don'ts for the main image. So things you want to avoid in your main images. Okay, and the first one is do not include icons. I know it's very basic, but I see just like this image here, main images must not include icons, any kind of text, any kind of logos, watermarks, or any graphics over the top of the product or the top of the background. And as you can see, this image here, it's a beautiful image, but it is not compliant with Amazon's terms of service. And the reason for that is that they have an icon in there and there's a bunch of arrow graphics. So that's not really allowed. It's not going to be compliant. So we want to avoid that at all costs. Okay. And the next one is to include your packaging. Now, according to the Amazon rules, you can really include, there's a bit of a debate around that. So you can include packaging if, quote unquote, there are important product feature. And, some people will say that what qualifies that packaging does qualify as an important product feature because it can really set you apart from your competition. But then there's some people who argue that it can only qualify as a product feature if it adds to the functionality of the product. So, just something to keep in mind when you're including your packaging. Usually I would not put it as part of my main image because, it could be taken down due to compliance issues. But you want to keep these guidelines in mind and kind of understand the whole reasoning behind it. And the next one is to put up a lifestyle image as your main image. Now, I know that it seems kind of obvious to not do that, but I see so many main images on Amazon that are non-compliant, just like this one. This was a beautiful listing. And, as you can see, they have put this lifestyle image, which was a perfect lifestyle image, but it does not go as your main image. It is, again, non-compliant with the Amazon's terms of service and can lead to your listing being suppressed. And some listings can really get away with it. A lot of times in my past, I've been consulting brands on listing optimization, and they would say that, look at this brand or look at that brand. They are getting away with it. But I believe in doing things the right way. And in my opinion, it is never worth that risk when you can do things, following rules and get equally good conversions. So, you want to stay away from kind of these strategies or tactics that are somehow sometimes pitched as good for conversions. But if you're not going to be compliant, you're going to have this huge risk of getting your listing suppressed. So, try to stay away from stuff like that. All right, now that we've discussed some, don'ts, some things to avoid for our main images, let's talk about some best practices, things you should do to your main image to increase those conversion and click-through rates. Okay, so first one, very obvious, put it against a plain white background. Make sure your product looks nice and clean and it covers as much of the space as possible to make your product appear larger and really make it stand out among all those listings that are going to appear when a customer searches for your product or any product with that keyword for that matter. All right, and the next one is to have your picture 3000 by 3000 pixels. Now, this is something I personally recommend because I do have background in photography and I know how it's going to look. I mean, the reason I recommend this is first one, because the higher the quality of the image, the better it's going to look, the more professional it's going to look. And the main thing is it's going to allow the customers to really zoom into that image. There's a zoom feature available, as you guys know. And we know that this zoom feature has been shown to enhance sales. So you want to make sure that it's as high quality as possible so that when people really zoom in, they can see each and every detail of your picture. Now, according to the terms of service of Amazon, the optimal zoom experience for detail requires files to be I believe 1600 pixels or larger on the longest side of the image. So, that is much lower than what I recommend. I understand that, but the higher the resolution, the better it's going to look. Again, you want to come off as a professional brand. And because the market is so saturated, you want to really put these strategies to use to stand out of your competition. And the second reason why I recommended 3000 by 3000 pixels images, having that square image makes your product appear much larger. Now, in this slide, you can see that, both products are very similar. They're both notebooks. But the lower item is appearing much larger and it's popping up a lot more. Now, this is a screenshot I took from a mobile device's search results. So make sure that your listings are optimized for mobile devices, because let's not forget, multiple reports have shown that about 79% of smartphone users have made a purchase on their phones in the last 6 months. So that is a huge audience that is now buying from their cell phone. So you want to optimize it for mobile devices to get the most out of that main image. Okay, next slide. And the third one is to add props to clearly demonstrate your product's use. Now, imagine looking at this particular slide. This picture pops up and it didn't have its prop, which is the laptop, because the main product is the stand. Now, I don't know about you, but I certainly would be confused about, like, what am I looking at? What is the purpose of this product if this stand was just pictured standalone? So show your product in action and really include those props so that you can give some clarity to the consumers who are scrolling through millions of search results, so they can really understand what utility your product is giving them, but within a single glance. You don't want to have them trying to understand what this product is for and confused. Within one glance, they should, one, be visually appealed enough to want to click on your listing, and two, they should know what they're looking at. And so let's move on to the next type of listing image, which is your infographic images. Now, what exactly is your infographic image? It's basically a combination of visual and textual information. And the main purpose is really to highlight your product's key features or advantages, or any unique selling points you may have to your product. Okay, and the first one is a features infographic. Now, the features infographic is basically utilized to, wrong slide. Okay. The features infographic is utilized to draw attention to one or two of your product's main distinguishing characteristics. So visually, just think of it as like an ad banner. There's so many different types of infographic images that you can include your listing. And this is a really good one because, it can really highlight those distinguishing features. Now, I do have a syntax which I believe you can make use of to make a compelling picture, because a lot of the times people are confused, like, how do I lay out that information to better explain my product to the audience? So, we're going to take this picture on the slide as an example. And the first question you want to ask yourself is, what is the feature? In this case, it's, it's brightening your skin. This product is brightening your skin. That's the feature. The next question you want to ask yourself is, which product attribute allows for this feature? Now, again, using this example, using this product, it's a vitamin C product. So the vitamin C is what allows you to brighten your skin. And lastly, you want to ask yourself, what problem does it solve? So again, in this case, it brightens dull skin. Dull skin is a problem. So think of it in this way, ask yourself these questions and come up with that perfect infographic, and leave your customer compelled so that they know that you really are adding value to their lives with this product. And this is just one of the techniques in which you can come up with the, text for your infographic. Okay, the next one is set or bundle includes. And if your product comes with numerous items or packs of multiples, your shoppers will really benefit from a high quality image like this. It's really important to clearly label what items your product has and what items the customer can expect upon the delivery of the product. A lot of the times with products that have like numerous amounts of items in their package, it can get a bit confusing and can lead to negative reviews when people are kept guessing, like, okay, how many products does it include, what type are they, so you want to talk about each and every aspect of it. Just like here it says there's a USB cable, a dust shield. Just go into detail of each and everything so that nobody's left guessing or nobody has an incorrect idea of what this product includes, because that ultimately that can lead to a negative review. Okay, and the next one is a dimensions or weights infographic. And, this is just a photo with measurements labeled around the product. But, you can always use a reference item as point of scale, such as holding, your product with your hand, just to demonstrate what the scale of this product is, how big or small it's going to be. And this type of image can be really helpful to those shoppers who, despite given dimensions of your product, may struggle to imagine the size of your product clearly. And as sellers, we all want to avoid negative reviews, so this kind of an image will really help prevent any confusion in the mind of the customer, because now your customer will no longer expect a different size or weight based on what they perceived your product's size or weight to be. And as you can see here, there's so many ways of doing this image. It doesn't have to be the boring old way of putting markings around your picture and writing down the dimensions. You can compare to a pencil like in this picture, or let's say if your product weighs 10 pounds, you can place like a 10-pound dumbbell next to it to demonstrate the weight of your product. So just be creative and think of different ways in which you can showcase the dimensions or weight of your product. And the next one is icons and icons infographic. And icons can really support claims to educate the visitors who come on your page to look at your product. It can be related to a quality or an attribute that differentiates your product from others in the market. The main advantage of this kind of an infographic is that when a customer sees these icons, it instills that buyer confidence in them. As a brand, they begin trusting you more. Like if you were to write fragrance free just on the side, maybe it wouldn't be as compelling. But if you make this icon, it makes it like seem a bit more legit, if you want to say. And there's so many pre-made templates or of icons available, but I usually suggest that as a brand, you dig a bit deeper, do a bit more research, stay away from these pre-made templates, because everyone's going to use them. Let's say if your product is animal cruelty and you're in the niche for that, a lot of people will be using the same icon. So, instead I suggest use Canva or Adobe Photoshop or hire an editor and create icons with your own branding colors in them, just to differentiate those images, to stand out a bit more. Like in this brand, the picture, as you can see here, their color palette was black and yellow, and they made use of these colors in their icons, which I really like. It really makes them stand apart from the rest of the images that their competitors had. Okay, and the next one is an exploded infographic, and this is usually created with 3D rendering. It basically, what it does is it shows different parts of an item as slightly separated by distance or suspended. So it better showcases, the materials used in your product. And this is very helpful for, kind of similar products like these. Like in this picture, they're showing the different layers of blades used in the razor, the floating foil blade that gets rid of residual hair. So that is a unique selling point, and you want to show the superior quality of your product to the customers. So this can prove really helpful if you are if you are putting in an extra effort into using unique materials, or have something that premium quality materials that your competitors may not be using. So this infographic can really be that decision maker in your sale, if let's say you were to use material that would make you stand out from your competition. And the next one is the how to use infographic. And you can really leverage an instructional Amazon image like this to demonstrate the correct setup or usage of your product, right? This is especially important for, like, I want to say the electronics category, since not everyone knows how to use tech gadgets or, those unique products that we haven't been using in our day-to-day life. Even something like this. In this picture, like, it's kind of unique. We don't really use something like this in our everyday life. So any product that needs any kind of an explanation on how to use it, because we want a buyer, we don't want any buyers to not understand and to return our product just because they didn't understand how to use it. And for those of you who are watching me live, actually, let me know in the comments section, guys, like, how many of you have returned things on Amazon because the seller did not do a really good job at explaining how to use that product? Like, I don't know about you, but I've definitely tried my best. And if you can't find any information from the images or your bullet points, I've definitely at some point been guilty of making a return. So let me know. I want to know how many of you guys have actually gone through that as buyers. And really, as sellers, we're trying to understand the buyer's mindset, like what is going to help them out the most, what's going to give them the most value, right? Okay, and the next one is the before after infographic. And this image really helps your customers envision how much of a difference your product can make in their lives, whether they need the product or not. There's a good chance that that this image might convert into a sale because it promises them that significant improvement in their quality of life. So this is exactly why when you're watching those makeover reality shows is why they're so popular, is because as audience, we love to see, we love to be able to given that opportunity to see the transformation of something. And, as we all know, change is always inspiring to watch. So, this is just one of the images that could lead to a sale if your product is giving someone significant value in their lives. And this I chose this image because it's such a good example. It just goes to show that we don't have to do the traditional split image where we have the before and the after. We can really take an example from this and look at how smartly they've really conveyed their message without any text explaining it. Like, they didn't even have to put the before after. So this is the quality that we're aiming for as a brand. And, we want to go that extra mile in our listing images. Okay. And that would be the end of infographic images. Now let's move on to the third type of listing images, which is lifestyle image. Okay. And they're really two different categories for lifestyle images. The first one is the portrait style. And this showcases the use of the product along with the model in like an everyday life situation. So these images are really intended to help your audience feel an instant connection with your product. And, one tip that I have for these images is you want to make sure that you do some market research within your product category to figure out what your target demographic looks like, and then use that target demographic as your models in your lifestyle image to help your customers envision themselves using that product. There have been multiple studies showing that if you use models of the same ethnicity or models of the same age group, we're able to, as buyers, connect better and have led to higher sales in general. So, you want to keep that in mind when you're hiring models for your photo shoot. And another thing to be mindful is to really cover as much of your target demographic as possible. So if you were selling a product that is a unisex product, then try to use a male and a female model in your listing images so that you don't lose out on half of that demographic. I've definitely come across so many listings where there's been people in the Q&A section asking, hey, can men use this product? Are these glasses for men as well? Are they unisex? So some people need that information in order to know that it is appropriate for their age or their gender or whatever that may be, right? So you want to try to include as much of your target demographic within your images as possible. All right, and the next one is the different usage lifestyle image. And this really portrays the various settings the product can be used in, and automatically creates a connection with the brand if customers were looking to use that product in that particular scenario. So, you want to cover as many settings in this lifestyle image because showing that visual will really drive the point home. So another way to get a high click-through rate and a conversion rate is to split test. So So it's to split test a few variations of the same image to see which performs better. And, we've got the Helium 10 audience tool, which is a market feedback tool, and it allows you to test those images or whatever you wanted to test. In this case, we're talking about images with real life Amazon sellers or buyers. So you're really asking these questions from the relevant audience, right? And that's the great use of it. So I guess my question for you guys is, looking at this slide, I want you guys to, pause for a moment and vote. Let me know in the comments, type in your answers, and let me know which image would you choose for your main image. If this was your product, which one are you going to go for? So I want to know, is it option A, B, or C? Let me know in the comment section below, guys. I want you guys to pause and vote in the comments section for me. Okay. And so we have already, as you can see, these are screenshots from our audience tool. We had already ran an audience poll on this, and the exact same options, the exact same order. And as you can see, option B won by 60 votes compared to 26 votes for option A and 14 votes for option C. So before running this poll, I actually went to Brand Analytics, which is a tool that you can find in Seller Central. And, it's going to give you a breakdown. Like if you've already been selling, it's going to give you a breakdown of what your demographic looks like. And
Lailama, if we can say, then we actually received replies from our audience as well. So just to let you know what others voted. So we have option B, B, A, B. Did we have more A's over here?
Oh, yeah, wonderful.
So mainly A's and B's, I see. Yeah, and more B's coming in.
Oh, wow. Okay, you guys were right about it. I mean, that's wonderful. I guess we're all on the same page. So, that's kind of why, like, I definitely was thinking it would be A, like when I first looked at it. Thank you for letting me know, Lisette.
Yeah, sure.
I couldn't see the comment section. So yeah, like, sometimes that just goes to show that sometimes we as sellers, think that we know the best what picture or image is going to convert the best. But, that's not always the case. And that just goes to show that, you always need to test it. That's extra proof that you need to split test, and why sometimes we are not the best judges for what's going to convert better, right? So anyway, going back to brand analytics, we did see that a lot of our demographic buying this particular product were US based Prime members, mostly women, and it was between the ages of, I want to say, 25 and 34. And so when I was running the audience poll, I put in these exact filters. So if you know your demographic and it's a very narrow or specific niche and you're targeting a very particular demographic, go ahead and put in these filters so that when you get your responses, when you run this poll, you get a very exact answer, and you're targeting the exact same people who would fall within this demographic, so that your results are not like inconclusive or they don't come out incorrect. And again, if let's say you're not selling, you don't have access to brand analytics, or for any case, if your audience is more broad, maybe then you don't have to put in all these filters. You can even start with no filters at all, or even just putting in Prime membership, if those are where most of your sales are coming from. So you don't have to do that. You can just put in, you can make it as broad of a target audience or as narrow as you want it. And, and there's so many different filters that you can choose from in case you did target a very niche product. So it could be by attributes, personality traits, by income groups, like so many different, even like educational level, different kinds of filters that you can put in. So, make sure you check that out. Split testing is so phenomenal. Like, it's really made a huge difference in so many sellers' lives with just giving us like ways in which we can improve our conversions and conversion rates, right? And so I have another pro tip for you. And again, this will be tackling that fourth part of listing images. It's not a different kind, but basically this is one of the ways in which you can get higher conversion rates. And, a lot of you might be wondering, okay, what is 3D rendering? I don't understand. It's basically the process of creating a three-dimensional image from a two-dimensional drawing. So, essentially your product doesn't have to be photographed. It's just made using a computer graphic. And sometimes, like I would say in our coffin shelves case, like a 3D rendered image worked way, way better than a regular photography. And as you can see, like I've taken a picture of another coffin shelf, which was photographed, and then our coffin shelf, which was 3D rendered. So if this is the case, if your 3D render comes out better than your actual photography picture, then go ahead and upload that as your main image. And, just see how much conversions go up. I've actually written down a blog where I conducted a case study on the conversion rates before and after uploading a 3D rendered image. And personally, I want to say our conversion went from about 10 to 15%. It was around that. Like, I'm estimating it, but it was roughly that. So this is definitely something to explore and see if it's a good fit for your product. But speaking of 3D rendering, you might be like, okay, like, Lailama, thank you for letting me know about this, but like, how am I going to know if 3D rendering is a good option for me? So, in general, it is ideal where you have like a bulky or oversized product, like maybe furniture, or let's say you have a product packaging like, like a box or bottle of supplements. That could be a great ideal product for 3D renders. Or if you have a reflective product like glass product, in those cases, I feel like 3D rendering would be the best route to go. And, if you did get a 3D render, you can also not only use it for your main image, you can also, Photoshop it into different lifestyle images using like those registered licensed stock photos, and just Photoshop it into there. Personally, from my experience optimizing listings, what I've noticed is 3D renders work great for main images and for those hero shot infographic images, but lifestyle, usually people have responded better to real life photography, unless your Photoshop work is like your editor can do a great job and it seems almost seamless. Then you could definitely get it Photoshopped into a stock photo. Okay. Now I'm going to go back and touch base on the split testing and, this it's very insightful because a lot of the times you will get a poll and people will vote for different options, and so you can also get access to feedback. And as you can see, in general, like a lot of the respondents have loved being able to just clearly see the shape of the egg tray in option B and how the eggs fit in the tray. So getting this feedback really adds to your insights or understanding of your product. So definitely go through this feedback. It really helps you understand what people want to see and what converts better. And so, in general, like, if anything, my takeaway from this running this poll was showcase your product as clearly as possible, but also that you as a seller, again, touching base on that point where a lot of people voted for B, but there were also people choosing other options, and I personally chose option A, right? So you're not always the best judge, and that is why we need market feedback. We need to research and get data to validate whatever we're putting out there, to make sure that we are in fact making the best decision for our brand. So this will definitely be something that I've taken away from like this poll in particular, and one of the reasons why I really like split testing. Okay, and so the first option was obviously the audience poll, which I talked about earlier. But for those of you who don't have access to audience tool or Helium 10, there's always other options. There's the manage your experiments tool. For brand registered Amazon sellers who are primarily in the US, you will get access to manage your experiments right in Seller Central, and that will be under the brands tab. So when you go to manage your experiments, this tool is built into your Seller Central, and it's gonna let you A/B test, which is like another term for split testing, and you can run these tests on different aspects of your listing. So this originally it was only for your A+ content, but now they have your product title and product images included as well. Product main image, actually, if I'm going to be particular. So you can run it on your main image, your title, as well as your A+ content. So what you want to do is essentially in this one, you're restricted to 2 versions. So, put up 2 versions of any content and upload it over here. And what it's going to do is it's going to test live on your listing. So let's say that you are testing your main image, right? 50% of the people are going to see option A, and 50% of the people are going to see option B. So whoever is coming on your listing is actually going to see different versions. They'll be divided into 2 parts. And essentially what they'll do is, from there, this case study is ideally you want to keep it a bit longer, like 8 to 10 weeks is what Amazon recommends. And what it does is it's going to give you a review at the end of that duration that you've set for your case study, and it's going to tell you which version performed best. And this can really help you learn how to build better content that appeals to your customers and really helps you drive more sales. As you may already know, a lot of the bigger companies do market research and spend so much money. So I just think it's phenomenal that we as Amazon sellers have more affordable options to really get access to that market data. Okay, and for my next tip, we've talked about the different types of split testing options available, the different aspects of your listing that you can split test to maximize your conversions. Now let's go over niche themes. This is basically one of the many strategies that people use, and a lot of the top sellers who've been part of the Serious Seller podcast, like Tamer, who was our guest, uses this strategy to guide how how to set up a strategy for their product. Basically, this is one of the strategies they use to determine what the best fit for their product may be. And let's talk about the two different screenshots that you can see on the screen here. For example, on the left side, we have collagen peptides, right? We've done a search for collagen peptides. Now, I want to know what you guys noticed about the images and titles on the left side. In the left screenshot, what is it that strikes you? Type in the comments, because I want to know what you guys think. Like, do you get the comparison between the right and the left side? Is there any difference that you can see in the pictures, in the titles? I'm gonna go ahead and meanwhile tell you what it is. So most of them, as you can see, are 3D rendered. And remember how, speaking of 3D rendering earlier, I said it was a great option for supplement bottles or packaging. So a lot of them are 3D rendered. And I don't know if you guys noticed, but the titles are relatively longer. It seems to work well for this particular niche. And so if you're entering that niche, maybe you'd want to use something similar. And now if you take a look at the screenshot on the right, you will notice a huge difference in the titles on the right compared to the left. So again, I want to hear from all of you guys listening here. What do you think is the difference? Do you notice anything about the titles in the two? So I'm actually going to go ahead and answer that in case nobody has. I can't really see the comments in the moment, but you should probably stick with a shorter title if you're in the niche of selling the product on the right side. And that's because, a lot of the products here have a shorter title, and it seems to work well in this particular niche. So, what I'm trying to get at here is, you do not have to carbon copy or make an exact copy of what your competitor is doing. So if their title was structured a specific, in a specific structure, you don't have to exactly copy that. But let's say if shorter titles work in that niche, maybe you too should go for a shorter title. Because that is a tried and tested formula for a lot of the products in this particular niche. But then at the same time, there's ways of differentiating yourself. So maybe you are using keywords in your title that are different from your, competitors. So maybe your packaging for your product is way different. So there's numerous ways of setting yourself apart. But if there's a tried and tested formula that you do notice in your particular niche, then you want to go with that, because most of the times it is tried and tested. And if you do something opposite to that, it might not convert well for you. Now, sometimes people will be like, okay, should we just, do things like a lifestyle image if they've put it up as... No. That is not what I'm saying. If someone has non-compliant main images, you do not want to copy them. Please don't make that mistake. But if you do see a theme occurring which is compliant and which makes sense to you, go ahead and use that formula. Differentiate yourself, of course, but use that tried and tested formula. Okay, and on to the next slide. So along with like analyzing if there's like a recurrent formula in your target market, in your market, you can also analyze the niche themes using the listing analyzer tool at Helium 10. And what you can do is you enter a few Amazon products there, and within seconds you'll see who might be underperforming, such as ones who aren't maximizing their bullet points. Maybe you'll see like a cross next to it. So this really gives you an insight into, for instance, let's say if you put your own product's ASIN as a seed title and then put in your competitors after that, you can really see if there's any key elements that you're missing out on, or maybe your competitors are not taking advantage of, let's say, a video, and you're the only one who has a video, then you already know that you're at a good spot. Or, if you see that nobody is doing a certain thing, if it's all red crosses there, then you want to jump in on that trend and do it, because that means now you're going above and beyond what the market standard looks like. And another pro tip I have for you is browser stack. So remember how in the beginning of our presentation, I talked about optimizing your listing for mobile devices? Because let's be real, a lot of us do shop on mobile phones, and there's been studies showing that people are increasingly using their phones to purchase things from Amazon as well. So this is a strategy given by Kevin King recently in one of the elite mastermind workshops. This is basically, you can use this website called Browser Stack. As you can see, this is the picture that's going to show up. It kind of looks like this. And, it shows you how your Amazon listing will look in different browsers and different devices. So it can show you how it looks on a desktop, how it's going to look in on a mobile device. So getting an idea and then seeing, sometimes your pictures may not look as big on a mobile device. Maybe they're not popping as much on a desktop. So, it gives you a good idea of what your consumers are seeing. And if it doesn't look the way that you plan on making it look, then, you can always go back and change it. So a very helpful tool there. And on to the next one. Okay, so now that now these were all pro tips. Sorry, these were all pro tips that I had for you. But I would like to quickly, go over some tools that you can make use of that will help you level up your listing images game. And when you go on a listing and select all the reviews, look at all the reviews, sometimes going through each and every listing and then scrolling down to their reviews and everything, it just can take so long. And for that, we have our completely free Google Chrome extension tool, which has the Review Insights tool inside of it. So go into Review Insights, click on all the, select all the reviews, 1 star, 4, 5, all of them. And, this will give you instant visibility to the most commonly appearing phrases in the reviews, and will give you an idea of the kind of keywords that people are using. And when you get this feedback, it'll really help you get emotionally connected with your buyer, because now you're understanding what your buyers are thinking. Or let's say you're not selling in that niche and you want to get an insight into that particular category. You go on to your competitors, one of your top competitors, go onto their listing, run your Review Insights on it, and it'll really show you what people are saying about this particular product. Maybe it's in general about this product category, maybe not even general, not even about that particular brand. So, it gives you that view into their world, and you can kind of step into their shoes and see what challenges are they facing. And, I would love to mention that this tool is my absolute favorite for planning my listing images, because I have worked as a photographer as well as, a consultant on listing optimization. I used to use this tool all the time. So I filter out all the reviews, and then whatever phrases I see here, I use that information to understand what I want to cover in my listing images. So again, this is like not just for your bullet points. You take these phrases and kind of incorporate that data. Sometimes there's questions, sometimes there's things like not helpful, or like people saying adding it in my tea for collagen peptides. So then you have to put in a picture that demonstrates one of their important features, which is a lot of people will put in these collagen peptides into their tea or coffee. So this I know that if I translate that information into text and images for my audience, then the chances of converting them into a sale are going to be a lot higher. A lot of the times people will include this information in their bullets, but I would say that is never enough, because, let's be real, as buyers, we ourselves, sometimes don't even look at all the bullet points. You scroll through the pictures, get all the data, and move on to another listing if you're not satisfied. So including them in your pictures is very, very important. All right. And next we have the listing analyzer, which we already talked about. So, again, just going by how your competitors are doing or how you're doing in comparison to them, it's a great way to look into that. And lastly, this is more about listing copy, but I could not help but talk about this tool of ours called Listing Builder. Allows you to write your entire listing with cool graphical user interface. Sorry, I'm losing my voice right now, but it will let you know if you have used all the target keywords, whether in phrase form or words alone, and it allows you to import with a click of one button any competitor listings on Amazon. So if you copy your competitor's listing and put it onto this, you will see their keyword density and what strategy they're using for their keywords, and it allows you to use valuable real estate locations for keywords. Maybe you didn't get the idea of using these keywords in your subject matter, but now you're like, okay, maybe I'll use this in my subject matter. And as we all know, like, its subject matter is one of the most important parts in your listing. So that marks the, yeah.
I wanted to jump in because you mentioned this tool right now. I wanted to ask, like, how was it before we had such a great tool? Like, how Amazon sellers were actually crafting their product listings? Because I started in Amazon space 6 years ago, and I remember doing everything basically in the regular, let's say, Excel sheet or a Word document. And it was kind of like a hustle to get everything like correct with the keywords and with the sentences and everything. So
absolutely. That's kind of what I went through as well. So we're in the same boat when it comes to that, because like I would just write down my stuff. I think I was selling about 6 years ago or 5 years ago, roughly. And that's when I would just like I would write it out in a Word document, look at the word count, like, am I within the word count? Because like, it's not going to index after a certain point. And it was just such a hassle, like keeping track of all the keywords. I had to like manually cut it off.
Exactly.
So it's such a hassle. This makes your life so much easier. It cancels off the keywords that you've used already, because sometimes you can have a really long list of keywords, then you're like, have I used this? Have I missed out on anything? So yeah, it definitely makes life so much easier.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. All right. So thank you for listening in, guys. I really appreciate your participation as well. I think that was a bit of a fun voting session that we did there. And I'd now like to open the floor to any questions. So let me know in the comment section if you have any questions, because I would love to hear from you guys.
Yeah, thank you so much, and we hope you will feel better very soon as well. So everybody who enjoyed the content Lailama was presenting, please hit like to the video, so afterwards, when she is drinking tea, she can come back to this video and see how you love the knowledge she spread. So before we go to the questions, I wanted to touch a little bit about the VIP video we recorded as well with you. So in that, you will share some information about the A+ content and about branding. So can you comment about that a little bit?
Yeah, so this video basically entails like some strategies that I've put to the test, strategies that you're not going to find in other places for your A+ content. And, because especially with the Amazon space becoming overly saturated, I feel like, everyone's covering at least the base level information. So everyone has access to like these basic A+ content strategies. They're already putting in images and text and everything. But how can you really differentiate yourself and turn into a brand? Because this is a section of your listing that will really focus on your branding. So, I mean, I personally highly recommend it. It's tried and tested formulas and stuff that can really set you apart, because let's be real, it is becoming a very competitive marketplace now.
Yeah, that's true. All right, very good. So let's bring Sophia in, and we do have questions from the viewers as well. So let's go.
Cool. So then let's get into the Q&A. And our first question was from Noemi, and she asks us, how can you check your click-through rates?
Okay, so usually you want to, when you go into your Seller Central, like I said, I mean, is my presentation going to be visible to them? Sorry, I just had a quick question so I could explain it better. Or
So you want us to share your screen again? We can do that.
yeah, if it's possible, just to kind of give them that visual.
We now see your slide.
Wonderful. Okay. So, Naomi, basically, let's first understand the click-through rate is the percentage of visitors who are going to land on your product page. So from, let's say if I searched in my keyword and I clicked on your listing from that search page, that's going to add into your click-through rate. And you can get access to that on Seller Central. You'll have access to your unit session percentage. You'll also have access to click-through rate, or, just guessing from this formula alone, it'll show you, I believe they also have like click-through rate and will give you the exact figure. So you don't have to calculate it yourself. Go into Seller Central, and the part where you see unit session percentage and all that information is where you will be able to tell what the click-through rate is.
Very good. In fact, Amazon offers so much information, so much data. Yeah. So there's everything's there. All right. And we have one more from Joanna now. Do you know if it's possible to add product videos? So Lailama, can you please talk a little bit about product videos?
Yeah, absolutely. Joanna, thank you for the question. Yes, you can add product videos, and you can add it now. You can add it in your A+ content, as well as your storefront, as well as your listing images section. So originally, you'll have the 7-image slot that's going to be visible to everyone. And within that slot, you can add in a product video. In fact, you can even add more than one video. So in case you wanted to like break it down and add a bunch of shorter videos, which, depending on what kind of a product you're selling, would be recommended in certain instances, because you don't want to run longer than the 30-second mark. Everyone's attention spans are very low these days. So, if you do find yourself giving out more information, maybe you can upload a bunch of videos there.
Okay, very good. So let's take another question. So what about example class water pitcher, I believe it is. There is no way to do 3,000 times 3,000 to cover 85% of, or 1,000 times 3,000. Amazon always changes and my bottles never look good. So I think the question is about the bottles are like with very specific layout, right?
Okay, so I think when you talk about, or even 1,000 by 3,000. Okay, so that's another thing. That's one of the reasons why, number one, I will talk about higher quality images, is because Amazon will compress your pictures a bit and the quality does go down at times. So that's one of the reasons why I recommend uploading in higher quality, so that even if the quality drops a bit, it's not going to be as impacted. Your listing's still going to look good and professional. Now, talking about covering, because your product is kind of shaped like that, it is a kind of a rectangular shape, or a cylinder, you can say. In that case, you can have a square image, but what you can do is kind of tilt it diagonally and have maybe water pouring out of it, because we did talk about those in action shots. Sometimes if you just put in a glass water pitcher, maybe people won't understand. So showcasing water pouring out of it and then having it slanted would also make sense to display your product like that. So just these little strategies, maybe you won't have any ideas, but try to discuss it with your editors or your photographers. I'm sure they're going to have some creative ideas on how you can turn it into a square image.
So you have to kind of like be creative and like magician to figure out like new ways how to demonstrate your product, right?
Absolutely. Because I know that a lot of people will end up, and that's a great question, Oli, because then if you do demonstrate it in a square image, one, you're going to pop up a lot more. And if yours is diagonal and everyone's is just upright, it'll show your picture as being a little more different, and there will be, a likelihood that people will click on yours as opposed to other people. So yeah.
Okay, very cool. So Sema has a question about how do you differentiate the main image as your bed sheet example, or for home textile like plain towel?
Okay, so for instance, the bed sheet one, it's interesting you asked that, Sima, because I think like a couple of months ago, I was still working as a freelance photographer, and I did bed sheets. Very hard product to do because I had to half the time I was ironing the product. But anyway, to answer your question, what you can do is put a bed against the white background. And this is more for your photographer, but basically have it a bed against the white background and put the sheet on the bed. And the reason I'm saying you should use it on a bed is because if you were to just display a bed sheet folded, people would not have a good idea of what it's going to look like on the bed. So spread it on the bed, put the bed against a white background, and there it is, your main image.
Very good. Thank you. And we have one more question from Ole, and he asks, can we add shadows or mirrors?
Right. That's a tricky one because, again, the shadows and mirrors sometimes are considered non-compliant, right? Maybe adding very slight shadows on your product is something I would recommend. So let's say when you're doing the photography for your product, make sure that your product has a different lighting and different shadows. Like, for instance, as you're looking at me now, my face has a bit of a shadow here. And if the lighting was extremely consistent and very similar on all sides of the product, then it's going to look like a 2D product. And I know this because I'm a photographer, and it's, I've seen it so many times. So instead of having shadows in the bottom of the product and being non-compliant with Amazon, what I would recommend is for the shadow and the lighting to be structured in a way that it shows on your product as opposed to the bottom or the top or the side. So, that's another tip that I have for you.
Thank you. And this question from Elia, I also think it's very interesting. He asks, in which type of listing image can I show the packaging? So what is your take on this one?
Again, like I said, it's very debatable because let's say if it does add as a feature to your product. So let's say your packaging had a pocket in which you can later put in your product or store your product, I would say is the safest way, because in that way it does add as an important feature of your product, because like I mentioned, there is a bit of debate on what what an important feature of your product would qualify as. So some people would say that it's adding extra value to your product. Some people would say if it's differentiating you from your competitors, in that case only. So I would say leave the product packaging for secondary images if you do want to show it. I personally don't recommend it unless it was adding a feature to your product. Like, for instance, like I said, if it had some kind of a pocket in which you could store your packaging, would make sense. But usually I would not recommend putting in the packaging in the main image. You can always put it in the secondary images if your packaging is really unique and aesthetic.
Okay, very good. So we have another question. So what's the best way to research your targeted audience?
Oh, that's a great question. One of my favorite ones to answer. So usually what I'll do is, let's say if I was selling what can I say? A pair of shoes, leather shoes, let's say. What I'm going to do is look at big brands that are selling leather shoes. And because they have a lot of market research done as well, usually what you can do is get access to one of their market research or, product research and development reports, where they will have published a bunch of their target audience. And usually it will be very similar to what your target audience is going to look like. So, if you can get access to that, or if you're an Amazon seller already, the best way, and that's within Seller Central, it's called Brand Analytics. Go on to Brand Analytics, you'll have data of all the people who've bought your product. It's going to show you what their income type is, what their gender is, what their educational background is. So they're going to give you all of that information in Brand Analytics. So if you're brand registered and you're already selling, that's the best way to get access to your target demographic.
And now you actually answered her second question as well, which was how to check your demographic on as an Amazon seller or on Amazon. So the tool to go is to use the Brand Analytics tool.
Yeah.
Okay. And let's see what we have more here. So if I have a giveaway, should I add it on the main picture? However, it will leave some white space around the main image. So is it compliant to add information about the giveaway on the main image?
It is not. It is not compliant. And another thing is, the main concern here is it can be misleading, because the giveaway is going to be for a certain number of people, not for everyone. So, that can actually lead to negative reviews, because let's say I'm not a part of the giveaway and I'm ordering your product and I don't receive the giveaway, I'm going to be disappointed and I might leave a negative review. So you want to keep that information out of the main image, long story short.
Okay, and we have one more question from Keith, and he asks, is there an ideal ratio for how many lifestyle photos versus infographics? Is there a specific order we should have them listed? For example, second photo being lifestyle or infographic?
That's a very good question. It covers everything. So you're basically asking about the breakdown of lifestyle and infographic images, right, Keith? So what you want to do is, this is so product focused, but I'm going to try my best to answer this for you. You want to see what kind of information your target audience is looking at. And again, Review Insights is a great way to access that information. Go into your competitors' listings, look at what reviews are saying, go to their Q&A section. So first, before you even begin working on your listing images, you want to collect data on what your target audience needs. What are their barriers to purchasing? So find that out. And then if there's a lot of information to give, let's say, again, you have an electronics product, it's complicated, you need to give out more information, I would say increase the number of infographic images. Let's say they're AirPods, right? In that case, maybe just one lifestyle image would suffice, and maybe the rest of the 5 images are going to be infographic images, because they're talking about noise canceling features, or they're talking about the battery life. So try to keep that in mind, versus, let's say, if you had like a home decor item like cushion, doesn't have many features, right? So in that case, you'd want to sell a lifestyle. So then in that case, you're going to have more lifestyle images. And the order, I guess, again, this is very product focused, but you want to order it in a way in which, let's say, put yourself in the buyer's shoes and see which questions am I going to come up with first. So order it in that way.
Actually, Lior wants to add to what he said before. So before, he told us that, if he had the giveaway, should he put it on the main picture? We established that that's not compliant. But now he actually comments and he adds that he didn't meant to say a giveaway. He actually meant that he has a gift, or actually a bonus item. I think that's what he means. So everybody gets it. Therefore, can he actually feature it in the main image?
Okay, thank you for clarifying that. I'm sorry I answered the wrong question. If there's a gift that everybody's going to get, and maybe that's going to lead to your... Okay, let me give you an example, okay? So I don't know what your product is, and I don't know what the gift is, but I've had a question where people were talking about a laptop bag, and it came with like extra handles or extra straps. And they were like, okay, the laptop bag in itself can be fit into a square image, but if I put in these straps that come, these extra straps that come with it, it's not going to be a square image anymore. So in that case, sometimes what I'll do is I'll tell them maybe hang the straps from the laptop bag and maybe tilt it this way. If it doesn't fit the right way, tilt your product, showcase it in another angle. So I hope that answers your question, Lior. Like if it doesn't fit in this straight way, maybe tilt your product, or discuss it with your editor. Sometimes they have a lot of creative ideas on how you can go about that.
That is a great tip, to discuss it with the editor, because they probably see a lot of products indeed. Cool.
Exactly.
We have one more question from Michael. He asks, is there a way to display shoes in the main image that sets you apart from all the standard images? Perhaps use a surface in the picture. So this is a very specific question. Do you have any idea that jumps into?
I do, actually. Again, you cannot use a surface in the main image. It has to be, unfortunately, on a white background. But the best way to, I don't know if it's a disappointing answer, but the best way to go about it is just to have a high quality image, put it on, like have a model wear the shoes, maybe that's a good way. Or if you think that styling it a different way, sometimes having one shoe like that, another like tilted a bit, styling it a different way could set you apart. So yeah, unfortunately, I don't have a great answer for you, but you can either use a model and have a very focused image of the a lower part of your images just showing your shoes clearly, or you can just style it a different way. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, those are great, very great tips. Cool, we have some more questions, but before we go there, I just wanted to say that the tips that you are sharing are definitely helping. So you can see we have some thank you messages, and yeah, I think it's
thank you,
very good
guys. I
information.
appreciate it. It's so good to see that everyone's engaging so much, and it's lovely to see that people are getting value out of it. That's what we're here for, right?
Absolutely. Okay. Good. So then we have a question about Helium 10, actually. What is the best tool in Helium 10 to improve our listings? Thank you.
Okay. Again, if you wanted to come up with ideas for your images or your copy content, you can use Review Insights to take a look at what your target audience are saying about the product, the barriers to purchasing. So that's a great tool. Second one, I would say, is Listing Builder, my absolute favorite. You can, really see what keywords you're using. Okay, my favorite tool, Listing Builder. That's another reason why I love it. I wanted to talk about this. And let me know in the comment section, guys, have you seen this happen to you? Because I was talking to my coworkers, and a lot of them do sell products currently. And they were saying that they sell in the Canadian and the US marketplace. And for some of their products, they no longer have access to the subject matter. And as we all know, title, search terms, subject matter, three most important places that will help you rank for a keyword. So, that was like a big problem, because if you're losing 1/3 of your chance to rank for a keyword if you don't have access to subject matter. So if you have the Listing Builder and you can't see the subject matter in your Seller Central, you can actually input the keywords in the subject matter section within Listing Builder and sync it directly to Amazon. So you now will be ranked for that keyword. And that's why it's one of my hands down favorite tool to use for improving your listings. And it even on the site gives you like a listing score, telling you if you're going through the best practices of copywriting, what keywords you've targeted, what keywords you've left behind. So yeah, it's a wonderful tool that way.
Okay, very cool. So Kim is asking, what is the better way to differentiate bone health vitamin bottle, please? Most show the ingredients and icons of organic or vegan and exercise lifestyle images.
Bone health vitamin bottle. One, I would say, for those main images and for your infographic images, 3D render. That is a niche where everyone is 3D rendering, and product photography will not give you the same amount of high quality result. So number one is for your infographic main images, you want a 3D render. Number two, the way you want to set yourself apart is sometimes your infographic image can be like a almost like a graphic image showing the bone skeleton, and showing how like red points pointing out the areas which it can improve. So giving that kind of information will set you apart. That again, I can't find the right words for it, but it's basically like a graphic image, like a drawing almost of your skeletal bone areas and problem areas, and it'll show how to improve that particular part of your bone. So that could be another way to set yourself apart. And yeah, I mean, what people are doing is already one of the ways that you can look good. But if you wanted to do something unique, these are two things that I have for you.
Very good. So we do take two last more questions for you. So Keith is asking, what are the limitations when using props in photos? So for example, an iPhone for an iPhone holder, or laptop for a laptop stand.
Right. So Amazon's terms of service will say that you should not include products that do not come with a product. That being said, it also says that the customer should understand by looking at your product what you're selling. So let's say you were to put an iPhone cover, right? Like, or a phone holder for a car, for instance. If I look at that in a main image, I'm not going to be able to tell. So in that case, you also have to, Amazon at the end of the day also wants sales because that's how they earn money. So if all of them started just putting up random pictures of stands, I don't know if people will actually buy them, if they're actually going to convert into sales. So, for things like that, I believe it's not non-compliant to put in props. Or let's say we had the coffin egg tray. Nobody's gonna know what it's for. Like, is it for candles? Is it for eggs? Like, there's so many things you can put in those places. So that's why we put in those eggs, because it helps clarify what the product does. So in cases like this, like, try to understand, like, logically, like, is it serving an extra purpose? Maybe if it was a mic, you don't need a person like posing and talking into the mic. The mic alone is good enough in the main image. You don't need any props. But yeah, so think of these ways in which, it could, you don't want to confuse your buyer, and you don't want to include any props at the same time that will look misleading to the buyer.
Right. So like in many things, it is a lot about using common sense and what would you do as a buyer. Good. Okay, we
and
have
that's
one.
kind of why, sorry, Sophia, but I was like,
Go
that's
ahead.
kind of why, it's so important to have these different conferences that you guys are attending. I personally, that's kind of how I learned, because it gives you that extra understanding. It's not just book knowledge. Okay, do this for your main image, do that. That's why these conferences give you that extra insight. And I really appreciate you guys putting this together. Like, you're doing such a brilliant job.
We appreciate that you are here, definitely. And we have one final question then for you. We have revised our product 2 times over time based on customer reviews. Do you recommend listing this fact in the pictures?
I would say no, because I mean, as a seller, I can understand how it'll be impressive for another seller to see, okay, they're actually they're collecting market data, and they're collecting market research, and they're changing their products. But this is I mean, I don't know how to put it the right way, but I guess as a buyer, this is what I would expect from a seller. Like, if there's a fault in a product, as a buyer, I would expect the seller to just reiterating that you have gone in and changed your product as a buyer is not giving me any value. So I would say no, you should probably not include it in your images or reflect that information.
Okay, very good. So thank you so much for everything you taught us today, and we're super excited, as we already expressed, that you were here today with us. And to go once more over, then you also participated in the VIP package, creating a video about A+ content and branding. So everybody who are interested into learning more with Lailama, then definitely check the VIP package out. And you don't only get her video, but also videos from the rest of 20 plus speakers we have. So thanks again, and definitely hit like to the video as well if you enjoyed the content.
Thank you for having me, guys. It was a pleasure being on here.
Thank you very much, Lailama. If someone wants to sign up for Helium 10, check the link below. Our links follow with some special offers. And again, thank you very much, Lailama. Thank you very much, Lisette and Sophia.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
See you soon.